This is how my Saturday began at my airline's headquarters with a fall festival of sorts. I've been in my airline now 17 years between my regional and mainline. I had never been to this event before. It was a lot of fun. The whole family comes out. Everything's free: food, games, and activities. My wife and kid had a great time. My oldest kid was at a band competition. If you're a band parent, you get it. But it was a great day. My youngest got to have her first float, and I don't know how, as a parent, I've never given her a float before. She didn't care for it. She's not big into mixing things, and she tried to Fanta float with ice cream. She's like, "Dad, I'm not having it. We'll keep them separate." And of course, you can probably guess where I'm flying today. It's London. All right, let's go to work.
We're trying face tracking enabled. My face shouldn't move too much. Good afternoon. It is 3:19 p.m. I have a 4:15 p.m. report time. I am leaving 4 minutes late, but you know what? It's okay because I live very close to the airport, so I've never been late for sign-in. Probably introduced myself by now, but hello, my name is Darren. In case not, I'm a dad. I'm an airline pilot. I am a husband of a scientist. This is a reserve trip. This is not a trip I wanted. Today they had three or four open London trips and one trip to Frankfurt, Germany, right? And when I looked at the reserve list yesterday, checking my microphone, on the reserve list, I was number 2 to be used. I was on reserve yesterday and today. I'm on reserve 4 days total, right? So they knew they were going to use me for reserve. Now, yesterday, they didn't use me, so I got the day off with my family. It was nice. But today, I knew I had to go to work. So I actually was called proffering, but kind of bid for the trip to Frankfurt, Germany. It was a FC, second relief pilot trip, but I had not been there before. And I figured that's somewhere new I would like to go. Well, with our current reserve system, this just changed recently. The software is less than ideal. I either have to tell the airline I want no trips or subject myself to getting a trip and bidding for a trip. There is no in between. Our old software used to allow it that I could say, I want this trip or this trip, and then pass everything else. I don't want anything else. We currently cannot do that. It's very unfortunate. So since I knew I was going to be used, I tried to control my own fate to a point, and I only bid for the one trip to Frankfurt, Germany. Now, I can't see what other people are bidding. I can't see what other people might want to pick up. It's a blind game, right? So this was like at 9:30 in the morning. Well, at 10:05, the computer had already been done shuffling the trips, and someone who lives out of base that's junior to me, but a line holder, picked up the trip to Frankfurt, Germany. Yeah, and you know what? Hindsight is fine, so I got assigned this trip to London. Interesting thing, I'm flying with a buddy of mine, and I first met him way back at our regional. We were all going through 175 training together as captains. So I've never flown with him before, ever. And he's going to be my relief pilot for the trip. So that's kind of neat, you know? But it was kind of nice today having a later sign-in, and that I was able to go to the function at my airline's headquarters with my family. Because if I had the trip to Frankfurt, I'd be in the air already. We'd already be over somewhere over like Mississippi, or even probably up to Illinois almost. So, you know, hindsight 2020. Okay, it's better I got this trip than the other trip. So, what is a trip? It is a London trip. It is an FO trip. I'm flying it, so it's be my second landing in a week's time. That's kind of nice. 5:15 departure. We head to London. Get there in the morning. I plan on sleeping. And then I'm going to do one or two things. So my distance learning Q4 is currently available. So I did download all those courses. But it's supposed to be kind of sunny but cold. Anything below 70 is cold to me. I might venture out to the London City Airport. So I'm either going to sit in the hotel and study and play video games and eat lunch, or head out to the London City Airport. The issue is it's a 12 miles away, but it takes almost an hour to get there, no matter how I do it. So I'm not sure which one I'm going to do yet. I'm prepared for both. But we get back Monday afternoon at like 1:50 in the afternoon. So it is a 24-hour and change overnight. And of course, we are having daylight savings time in the United States, but that's not going to affect me at all because we have a long overnight anyway. So it's a 777-300 there and back. Same cabin crew there and back. Also of note, so when I got this trip, my buddy messaged me, say, "Hey, Darren, we're flying together, and we're flying with the check airman. Are you due for a line check?" I'm like, I don't think I'm due for a line check. And I didn't see if the captain was already on the trip before we got assigned the trip, because sometimes they will, if somebody's due for a line check in your reserve, they will watch. And if they see, okay, he got this trip, they'll throw a check airman on it. That happened more on the narrow bodies. Wide bodies is a little bit harder because, again, check airman has to be available all the days, yada, yada. I suspect, and you'll know by the time this video comes out, sometime in the video, that the check airman is probably just doing line flying. I do know new check airmen have to line fly so many hours to get qualified to be a check airman. You can't just be a check airman qualified and done. You have to fly the line for like I think 100 hours before you can teach in the airplane. So I suspect that's what it is. There's only 3 of us. You know, if he had a IOE student, there would be an FC assigned. So I think that's what it's going to be. It could be a line check. That's fine. And on that note, some people get nervous about line checks, about being watched. I never have. And it's not because I'm some macho guy. It's because I fly the same whether I'm being watched or not. I don't lower my standards, lower my skills, lower what I do just because I'm not being watched anymore. Again, I'm not perfect, but some people, and it's complacency that hurts. It hurts your abilities. Is they study for the line check, or most time for the check ride, pass check ride, and then they go back to their old ways, and they kind of slack off. And again, they're safe, but they're not doing things by the book. They're not saying the right things. They're not briefing the right way, that kind of thing. And so when they get line check, they get all nervous and they have to start studying a bunch, or they get overly nervous. Or when they have to do a check ride, they're like, "Oh my gosh, check ride," and they start studying the books again. Versus I just fly the same always. And again, I am not Chuck Yeager. I am not a perfect specimen by any means, but I fly the same no matter if I'm being watched or not. So that's that. Once I get back, I am going to be off for 2-3 days. I get back on Monday. I'm off. Oh, I'm off 4 days. I'm off Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm off 5 days. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah, because I had to be off for Friday for my my wife, because my oldest is going to a Mavericks game. So I'm off for 5 days, and then I'm back on for I think 6 or 7 days. It's gonna be again. I had to read about my month this month. It's gonna be a crazy month because I did want off the whole week of Thanksgiving, and I got it off. But in order to do that, I got to pay the piper and be on reserve a lot before that. So it is what it is. And funny enough, the captain just texted me, and he said, "Hey, Darren, I'm out here just doing proficiency flying." So he's just out flying the line to stay current, and that he has all the paperwork. So he'll meet me at the jet, right? It is tradition that the captain and the first officer that's flying meet in the crew room prior to going to the airplane, and the relief pilot goes straight to the airplane. But he says, "Hey, just meet me at the airplane," which makes sense. Back in the day, even less than 3-4 months ago, we used to meet in the crew room, open this big plotting chart, and plot our course across the ocean. We have since stopped doing that, so there's no need for us to meet in the crew room anymore to plot the chart. Everything's on iPads nowadays, and we still have paperwork, but we don't plot the chart. We plot our path across the ocean anymore. So meeting at the jet saves me from going down to the crew room, which I don't ever go down unless I have to. So there's that. Okay, that's all.
So I got in my seat and I opted to fly over to London. Again, the check airman captain said, "You'll fly or talk." I said, "I'll fly, man. I like flying to London versus flying to Dallas. I've flown to Dallas a lot." This is Microsoft Flight Sim and the PMDG 777. I'm going to try to incorporate it more in the future as I can. I'm not a simmer or a streamer, so I can't do the whole streaming and talking thing. That's not what I do. So after pushback, we start our engines, and I will kind of show you how the engines start on a 777-300. Of course, the APU is already running. We need fuel, fire, spark, and air to start the engine, right? So I turn the start knob to start, is very similar to the Airbus. Again, the 777 is a very Boeing Airbus, so to speak. But the computer takes control of the entire start process. You see the N2 spinning up right there. That is the core of the engine. The part you can't see is spinning inside the engine. The computer wants to get it spun up as fast as it can, as high as it can, you can cool it down, and then it'll introduce fuel. Now, I put the fuel switch up, but it's not adding fuel yet. It'll add fuel when it wants to add fuel. And you can tell when it adds fuel by the fuel flow going up, and of course the EGT, the exhaust gas temperature, going up as well. That is the temperature coming out the back of the engine, right? So once it decides to add fuel, we get EGT rise, and of course you get N1 rotation at the top gauge, and now the outside of the engine is spinning. The engine is not fully started until that little red band goes away. Once it goes away, the actual start switch I turned goes back to the normal position, all by itself, almost like magic. And so I'm going to show you that on the next engine start, right? So now the engine is fully started on the left engine. We start one at a time on the 300. On the 200, we can start them both at the same time. I believe it's because of how the engines are bigger on the 300, the same APU. And now I'm going to start the second engine. Again, you see the N2 spinning up. I'm going to go ahead and introduce the fuel control switch to run. But then I'm going to look back up top. And again, see that start switch? It'll stay there until the engine is fully started and stabilized. And then once that little red line goes away, it goes back to norm. It's like magic. Now, this is sped up quite a bit because taxiing is very slow in the 777. About 10 knots is the fastest we ever taxi for the most part, at least for 90-degree turns, and even going straight ahead. We're going pretty slow. This is a very heavy airplane. We're about 665,000 pounds right now heading out. She's a big girl, right? But in Dallas, we go to a spot number, and then we tell the DFW ground, hey, flight 50 at spot 134 with Sierra. We have the ATIS code, and they normally give us shortened taxi instructions. So they'll say 17 right bridge. Well, there is a decoding of that in our JIPs, but I know 17 right bridge from heart. It is straight up the Gulf Taxiway up to the Yankee intersection taxiway. To take a right hand turn, go over the Yankee Bridge, then it's 0.65 for ground on the other side. Now you might be wondering, why is it Yankee and not Zulu? Because the South Bridge is Alpha. The top one should be Zulu. Well, legend has it, we keep the Yankees as far north as possible. It's true. But during the taxi, we get our final weight and balance numbers. We had no idea how much we really weigh. Again, our dispatchers, they get lots of data. We have a good idea about how much we're going to weigh, but people don't show up. We get last-minute bags. We take bags off because people don't show up. So once we get all the numbers in our computer, they get sent to the airplane. And I verified that we are within tolerances because we have an assumed weight and a planned weight, for contingency purposes. Make sure our weights are good, our winds are good. We have a tailwind, and then the temperature is good. If we have make sure the temps we're using comply with our performance numbers. Once all those are good, I do the before takeoff checklist, and I warn the flight attendants about impending takeoff. By this point in the taxi, I call ground, saying we're top of the Yankee Bridge, and they give us the full length route over to 17 right. And this is very sped up because I don't want to waste your time. Once we're over here on the pad, we switch over to the tower frequency. And normally there's lots of planes here, right? But today we're by ourselves because I turned off all the traffic for an expeditious takeoff. We finished the electronic checklist. And once the captain lines the plane up on the runway, he'll hand the controls over to me. Now, the 777-300 is extremely long airplane. The rear gear, the main gear, they actually articulate. And so when we line up on the runway, we have to make sure we go forward a few feet more than we think we should, because we want to make sure those trucks have centered and locked into position straight ahead. It's, from my understanding, it's not common to have them turned, but the plane is so long, they want to make sure that when you make the big right turn, that you actually go forward a few more feet to make sure those trucks are actually locked and aligned. And I believe we'll get a warning if they're not locked and aligned. My graphics look a little funny on this. I just downloaded the scenery for Flight Sim in Dallas. I'll have to fix it. But line up on the runway, 17 right, my leg, and away we go. Now, I'm going to do something on purpose and kind of on purpose. On this climb out, we have a restriction, 240, actually it's just 5,000 feet at the J-Girl intersection. Now, before we ever even start moving, we discuss if we can make that restriction. There are many ways we can check this. We actually have manuals that they know based on how much we weigh and how hot it is outside, if we can make that restriction or not. It's all based on our climb setting. We have full climb, climb 1, and climb 2. Similar to takeoff settings, right? So climb 2 is reduced, climb 1 reduced a little bit, climb is full climb power. Well, I have it set up right now for climb 2, just to show you that it's not gonna make it. The plane will tell me unable next altitude, something to that effect. So I'm gonna have to either do some pilot stuff, meaning leave the flaps down longer, or go to full climb power to make the 5,000-foot crossing restriction. So you see here I'm at flaps 5, and it's not gonna work. So I'm gonna have to go ahead and go into the computer and go into uh, full climb in order to make the restriction. So I go to full climb, the N1 goes up, and now I'm pitching up higher because even at 210 knots, it's just not going to make it. Now, again, in real life, we never do this. We would pre-plan this to have full climb right away, or we just tell ATC unable for the crossing restriction, and they'll either let us do it as is if there's no traffic coming, or they'll give us a heading and we'll a whole new departure. Now, many hours later, we are approaching the actual tracks, right? Now, our clearance that we got went from gate to gate, but that's not actual clearance, right? It's kind of just a faux clearance. We're only cleared to the first fix before the track, which right here is Supri. Gander Oceanic, they control this airspace. We have to get clearance into this airspace. So we use this flight information tab. It's very similar to this in the real plane. In the real plane, a lot of this already filled out for me, but I'll do it by hand. But what we're doing is we're telling this Gander Oceanic controller what time we're going to be at Supri, how high we can go, how fast we're going to go in our ETA, right? They're looking at all the planes headed to Europe, all made around on the same track, and they have to space them out vertically and horizontally to make sure that none of us get too close to each other because it's a non-radar environment. So with all this data, they make a plan. Now we send for this about an hour, I think up to an hour and a half before our arrival at Supri or wherever the fix is, the on-ramp onto the track. So they have plenty of time to get everything situated, and they have computers and everything else nowadays. So most of the time we send away for it. We get it back about half an hour before our arrival at that fix. But I also tell them, I want to fly over 330, but I could go as high as 350. Because what if every aircraft wants 330? Then they're going to send us lower. And generally, higher is better for fuel savings and weather avoidance, right? So we're going to look at our VNAV page and see, okay, what is the highest we can go? And on this day, it shows, I'm going to show you on my left screen over here. Again, I am not a simmer. I do the best I can. The max is 356. So max is 350. Again, we have an hour to get there. So by the time we get there, it'll be about 36,000 feet, maybe 36.5. So it's a pretty good gap. But 350 is a pretty safe altitude to go if we need to get there. They did the clearance. We go across the track, exit, and now here we are arriving into the London area. Right now they're landing on runway 9 left, and we're on the Zurich 1 hotel arrival. So I'm making my box match our clearance. There it is all there via Occam. It's a southern way of getting into London. And again, I've already had my nap. I'm awake. Life is good. By this point, I've been up here for a good at least 2 hours or so. So I'm very comfortable with the weather, the state of the airplane. Life is good. Now, every arrival into London has a hold. You put the hold in every time because you are not cleared past that Occam fix unless they tell you. Even though the FMS has a nice arrival route in there from that hold. No. You put in the hold every time. And if you don't hear otherwise, you hold. You don't assume anything. But I put in the hold as depicted on the chart. And on this day, it was early in the morning, again, Saturday morning, or Sunday morning, sorry. And they said they don't expect us to hold. But again, if you don't hear it, then you put the hold in. Now, there is one crossing restriction at Zurich at 14,000 feet. So again, we're going to use VNAV to get down there. And of course, on every single arrival, we verify all the fixes. I put my screen on plan. I go down a 10-mile range. And on the leg page, I have this little step button, and I step through all the fixes on the arrival. I do this before every single arrival and every single airport to make sure all the fixes make sense. Any kind of crossing restrictions for speed and altitude make sense. And make sure that the depiction matches what I'm expecting the plane to do. Again, I want to hold at Occam, and then it has this course from Occam to the runway. I've never done it before. Today I'm going to do it because I don't like venturing myself around on flight sim, but that's how it is to arrive in London. Eventually, again, I'm skipping ahead a lot because I value your time. We're going to be cleared to descend to 14,000 feet. And this was an issue later on because there's a flight number 50 from Virgin ahead of us. I'll tell that story when I get into into the hotel. But we are cleared to descend to 14,000 feet, and down we go. Now, it is very common also in London to get speed reductions in the descent. The 777 is a big old airplane, very slick. In order to go down and slow down, you need drag. And we have these giant speed brakes, which are great, but they're giant. The first time I ever used them in the real plane, I yanked them back like I was on the Airbus, and you could physically, it made everyone hop up in the air. The captain said, hey, next time, nice and slow. They go out real slow to let the plane react, and it slowly reacts to the extra drag versus just yanking them out like on a smaller plane. These are giant doors you're putting up into the air to slow us down. So now I sped up to 2 times normal speed just to get through this portion, but we are descending, and you can see over there on the captain screen, a little magenta arrow showing our proper VNAV path. Right now we're slightly below it. On the ND, you can see a smaller RNP little VNAV screen, and it's showing the where we are as far as a kind of a false glide slope above or below the path. They asked this, I just reduced my speed, right? So now we're getting above the path. And it's going to get to a point where it starts flashing amber saying, okay, I'm so far above the path, I need help. Before it gets there, I'm going to go ahead and put my speed brakes out. Nice and slow. And speed brakes are out, engines are idled, and now we will slowly catch back up. You see the number decreasing, so catching back up to our proper path. Nice and slow. Again, it's a game of drag and learning how to descend. There's so many ways to descend in this airplane. Flight level change works, VNAV works, vertical speed works. It's whatever you are comfortable with and what suits the moment, so to speak. Now we're below the path again, so speed brakes are closed. They're back to the arm position, and down we go. As winter comes, we'll have anti-ice on, engine anti-ice on during the descent, and you'll see the N1s will be at a much higher RPM rate, higher rate, because they need extra hot air to cool down, to get rid of the ice in the engines, right? Well, extra higher N1 means we're not idle anymore. And so now you're trying to go down and slow down while having engine and anti-ice on. It gets to be a really fun game to play. It's been fun in every plane I've flown, no matter what kind of automation we have on board. But descending toward the airport, now you're going to see me make a mistake. I put in flaps 25 and auto brake 2. I should have put in flaps 30. I'm going to correct it in the video right before landing. It's my mistake. I'm used to flying a 200. So in a 200, you put in flaps 25. And a 300 is more common to do flaps 30. But down we go, and I'm going to go ahead and fast forward to getting closer to the Occam fix. So again, here we are headed toward Occam. Again, you always assume you're going to hold until you are clearly told you're not holding. Now, speaking of holding, they almost always tell us we can hold at our minimum clean speed. That is the up bug. It varies on how much you weigh and the atmospheric temperature outside right now and your CG. Now, sometimes the up bug is faster than or higher than the recommended holding speed. We just tell them we're holding at a higher than the normal speed. It's never been an issue. But normally we hold right at the up bug, a nice clean machine. Again, head toward Occam. On this day, again, you see later on my flight radar track, we went to Occam, almost to Occam, and then we made a sweeping left turn, and they gave us kind of a left course into the airport. Now, they have a continuous descent approach into London, meaning we should never, ever level off. There are so many ways to battle this little battle here. Generally speaking, I use the approach button on the sensor display, and I see where the glide path is. And, between 700 to 1,000 feet per minute, depending on lots of things, will get us in the ballpark of where we should be. You're just not ever supposed to level off. You can use a mix of flight level change, VNAV, or vertical speed, whatever suits the moment and makes you happy. But down we go. Again, I'm just getting some last minute lights turned on. Again, I do the best I can. Again, it's a nice, pretty day. And again, that Virgin Flight 50 is just right ahead of us, and it caused lots of issues on our approach this morning. But this is a very similar path to what they gave us that morning into the airport. And again, this is sped up about 400%. Again, nice sweeping left turn, descending, and slowing down. Very smooth flight. It's a very pretty day in London today. Now, again, I'm planning on in real life, a flaps 30 approach and not flaps 25. I'm going to correct it at the very last second. Again, zooming around the pattern here very quickly. Again, the London air traffic control, they are very good, very proper. and it's very common to get 160 knots to a 4-mile DME final. On the 777 300, it's very easy to do. We have very high flap speeds. On the 200, it can be a little tricky depending on what you're doing to make sure you don't bust any flap speeds and still do 160 to a 4-mile DME fix. Again, that is on the top portion of my PFD. But as we come in, I'm at flaps 25, right at 160 knots. Life is very good. And I'm going to hold that right until the 4 DME fix. Again, there's an aircraft right in front of me. And on this day, they did not clear us to land until we're about 300 feet above the ground. Now, we've been up all night long. We are not fatigued, but we're tired. What most people do is we'll leave the autopilot on until we are cleared to land, just for situational awareness and reduced workload for all pilots on the flight deck. And that's what I did today. So I had the autopilot on. I was following along with my hands right until 300 feet. And then they finally said, cleared to land. And I turned the autopilot off and prepared to land the aircraft on 9 left. Now, on this day, life is good. Winds are almost down the runway, coming in on 9 left. The winds are actually calmer than they are in the sim, but it is what it is. Again, I'm following the glide path. And at this point, I'm following the VASI. So I'm looking outside, and I want to keep the VASI right 2 white, 2 red. If I want to, I can go to 1 white and 3 red right over the threshold to get closer to the end of the runway. But this is a long enough runway, it's not that big of an issue. But still 2 white, 2 red, and I'm keeping it nice and slow. And around 30 feet is when I'm beginning my flare. Again, the auto throttles will automatically go to idle all by themselves. Coming in and then just working it down. And I wish the flight focus cameras were working. I made a crazy smooth landing. You could not feel the wheels touch the ground. So many flight attendants assumed it was the check camera that landed that day. But no, it was me. It was my landing. It was great. But then I went to reverse. The auto brakes take it to a point, took over manual braking, and I slowed down enough for the 90-degree turn. Now, those of you that follow my videos know I fly to London a lot, and this is the first morning I've ever been told to follow the greens. They had just the taxi lights they want us to follow turned on that morning. It was similar to this, but it was kind of neat to just follow the green lights. We kept following the green lights until we were told, and then it turned red right in front of us, a stop bar, right before we were able to turn into our gate, our alley anyway. But it's kind of neat to see follow the greens. But clean up the airplane and head toward the gate. Again, life is good. Once we got to the gate, we shut it down and we were done. Again, it's all the adrenaline kind of leaves your body, and you get tired pretty quickly. And once we're at the gate, I again shut the airplane down. I got my landing credit, so I'm good for I think I'm good till January now. And we all cleared customs, hopped on the bus, and went to our hotel. Again, thankfully this morning it was only a 25-minute drive to central London, but I was ready to go to the hotel. Once we got there, we had to wait about 15 minutes for our keys, unfortunately. Went to my room, went to sleep, but not before I did a quick debrief of the flight. All right, hello. It is currently 8:57 locally, 2:57 in Dallas in the morning, both ways. Good crossing. Kind of flying with a buddy of mine. His wife got lucky. I'm not sure I mentioned it in the video, but she got first class on our plane, which very rarely happens to London. And it's her birthday today. That's a pretty awesome birthday for her. Good flight out of Dallas. Standard takeoff 17 right. Good flight with a check airman. A little bit, different than a normal line captain. He's very, very good. But I took the leg over here. He offered me a leg. I took the leg because why not land in London versus I always land in Dallas. Hand flew till we cleared 5,000 feet under restriction out of Dallas, and then turned the autopilot on. I had the second break. Didn't sleep very well. Turbulence. It was what it was. Maybe I had like an hour sleep at my 2.5-hour break. I kept front, and because of it's getting close to winter and fall, whatever. Normally the sun comes up as you approach Ireland. It didn't. We didn't get sunrise till we were already getting vectors for the approach. Landed 9 left, and again 777-300. Winds right down the runway, overcast 1,500 feet. My buddy Alex gave me a tip saying, right at 4 degrees nose up, it's a pretty good landing. And I never done that before. So I kind of peeked down a little bit during my flare. I had an amazing landing. And I'm so bummed that after we landed and we were on the bus, I looked and Flight Focus 365 wasn't filming this morning. probably my best landing I have in my career, and no one will know. I mean, it was so good. Multiple flight attendants mentioned how good my landing was. Like it was just greased right on. Um, but yeah, cleared customs, got to the hotel. We had to wait for a good 25 minutes for our keys this morning. That's less than ideal. Less than ideal. Um, yeah, but we're here now. 24-hour overnight. So I'm going to take a nap now and see you guys in a bit. Take a second for you guys. All right. Okay, first, the light in my room is broken, so that's why it's so dark in here right now. I hate cold. It is currently 4:35 in the afternoon. It is 58 degrees and cloudy in London. It's cold. I'm southern. Anything below 70 degrees is cold to me. I have on my long sleeve shirt here. You can read it if you want to. Yeah. It's still cold, right? And I brought my jacket. It's my new airline issued 3-part jacket. It's the inner liner. I thought it'd be warm enough because again, I looked at the weather. It's not. I'm cold, and the local tube station by the hotel is closed as a planned outage or planned closure for the weekend. And so I can take a bus to where I want to go, but I don't want to take a bus. I went to the bus stop. I did, and the line was long because everyone who takes a tube every 10 minutes is taking the bus every 10 minutes, and the buses are much smaller than the tube, right? So I'm not going anywhere. I'm done. I did have lunch, udon noodles, came back to the room, did some distance learning, played some Madden. Now I'm going to go get my Red Bulls for tomorrow. I might do a little walking. I'll put one more extra layer on. Because again, I hate cold and I'm a wimp. Say it, that's fine. But I'm going to get my Red Bulls for tomorrow, come back to the hotel, do some more distance learning, play some more Madden. I'm also playing Wolfenstein's, the old Wolfenstein video games, and just chill. I'm over the cold. I will have to pack warmer. Because of my weight loss, I need to buy some new thermal jeans. I have thermal jeans I wore the last couple of years that were great. I'll buy new ones. I'm a wimp. I accept this. And reconsider my winter coat options for London because 59 degrees is cold. It's so cold it makes me mad. Coming in here today, we were flight number 50. And there's a Virgin Flight 50 coming in from Orlando as well, right in front of us. And it happened when we got off the tracks and onto frequencies. And that caused some issues because they're flight 50, we're flight 50. There came a point where we almost took their radio handoff. We didn't. And then the controller read back, descend and maintain 14,000 at Zurich. We put in cross Zurich at 14,000. We read it back to them. They did not correct, and my captain made sure he said our call sign in flight 50 right. They didn't correct us. We put 14,000 in our autopilot system, right? This is the MCP. About 3 minutes later, again, we were still above flight level 280, so we hadn't gone down below our previous clearance 250. And it came back and said something along the lines of, please correct your instrumentation. You're cleared to flight level 250, not 14140. I'm like, okay, sorry about that, but we read back our call sign and flight level 140. You didn't correct it, sir. So, one, I'm glad they can see what we're doing on the flight deck. But two, in the US anyway, when there's two similar call signs, it is policy, or maybe it's this unwritten policy that they correct it, saying if there's United Flight 50 and a Delta Flight 50, they'll say United Flight 50, be aware, similar signing call sign, Delta Flight 50 on the same frequency. Hey, Delta, be aware, there's a United Flight 50 on the same frequency, similar signing call sign. It happens every now and then, not always the same number. Sometimes flight number 2161 and 2141, right? It's very similar. But in the UK, they didn't correct us or warn us about the same flight number, and we read it back clearly, and they didn't catch it, and again, nothing happened. I'm glad they can see what we're doing now. Now, eventually, I did have to go outside and venture the cold to find food and sustenance to survive. Again, this is like 5 in the evening, and it's already crazy dark. Again, the video looks much brighter than it actually was. It was pretty dark outside. But again, it's a nice area where we stay at. I can't complain too much. So I went across the street and I found an Amazon Go store to quickly get some shopping done. I do have to like change my Amazon app to the UK to get my Amazon code to leave the store because again, this is a non-cashier store. So you walk in, grab your items, and leave. It's weird, but it works, and they have really good deals, to be honest, on the snacks and Red Bull, and they have a few groceries in there as well. Once I was done, I did go to McDonald's. Why? Because it was easy and fast, and I was a little bit disappointed because I saw a McRib on the machine. Oh, McRib, that sounds awesome. It looked nothing like the picture and nothing like they do in the United States. It was a pretty sad McRib. It was so tidy and clean, but that's what I get. But anyways, now for the next morning. And good morning. It is currently, watch just went off, 6:29 local, midnight 29 in Dallas. I'm sitting on my bed because my light I normally use, this at this little desk, is broken. It's really dark over there. Good night's rest. Went to bed around 9 p.m. local. Woke up probably around 4 local, maybe 4:30, 4:30. Can go back to bed. Is what it is. Very boring overnight this time. The cold got to me. I hate cold. I really hate cold. I can't stress that enough. And I didn't pack for just how cold it is for me. So I did some distance learning and played video games, called the wife, watched some Netflix, and that's it. Didn't explore London at all. Went shopping twice, once for lunch, and once I got some snacks at my Red Bull for breakfast. Not breakfast, but got my mango and orange juice I eat for breakfast and my Red Bull as well. Because I'm flying back, not a relief pilot trip, relief pilot position. I want caffeine this morning, so I'm gonna have my Red Bull now, and then I'll have coffee at the airport. Can't have coffee before and put it in my thermos because security won't let me take my coffee through security. So yeah, I have my Red Bull now. I'm taking the last break, so I'll be up for a while. It's midnight 30 in Dallas. I go on break. Should be around 9 a.m. Dallas time, but 9 hours from now. 10 hours from now. 10:30. Probably about 10 hours from now. So be awake for 10 hours. I'll go to bed. I get home to Dallas today. We have an appointment for our house to get our power walls looked at. And that is my Monday. Very exciting. Okay, let's go to the airport. So head downstairs for the hotel van. I'm not gonna bore you with a whole return flight review. Got on the bus, got to the airport, went through the crazy London security, down to the airplane. We got on the plane a little bit late because the plane came in late. But here's the funny thing. This was the exact same tail number I flew over the day before. So the plane went from London back to Dallas and then back to London again. How do I know? Because my pen was still there. I was so mad that I left my pen in the airplane. But I looked and wait a minute. This is the same. Wait a minute. And there's my pen. And the captain did the same thing I did. But smooth flight back to Dallas. There was some weather in Dallas. There's some bumps, but we got there on time. Cleared customs, headed down to my car, and I was ready to go home and enjoy the rest of my day. I think on my next flight to London, I'll do the reverse where I'll kind of brief how we leave London and get to Dallas because this could be a crazy long video otherwise. Anyways. Okay. Let's go home. So that was a trip. Got to the airport this morning, and the plane that we were bringing out had just landed after we had just got to the airport and we're getting clear security, right? So it is what it is. They were a few minutes late. It takes a while to turn a 777-300. Cleared security. Most of us had no issues. Some of us had issues because it's London and it is what it is. Got to the gate, and again, my FB, my relief pilot, his wife was going to travel with us again. Now, she did take an Uber to the airport to make sure she had enough time to clear security. Again, we were showing first class and business class, a couple of seats open, and then by the time she got to the airport, they were all showing full. And we actually lost a business class seat, a first class seat. Sorry, first class in this plane. Like, well, that's weird. We got to the gate, and we had to wait for the plane to be cleaned. And then one of my followers recognized me from TikTok, of all places. So my flight attendants asked, "Why do they know you from TikTok?" So I had to explain that one. And that was fun. I don't like being. Most of my crew members have no idea who I am, and I'm okay with that. So we did that, and then got on the airplane.
sorry, idiot drivers behind me. Got on the airplane and started, doing our thing. Everything was fairly normal until we thought we were ready to go, and then we had a delay of about 15 minutes because of the late inbound. They were still loading cargo. Fine. Pushed back from the gate. Again, we left from spot 332, if I remember correctly, and went over to 9 right. Standard departure, nothing special. Oh my gosh, it is dark outside. This storm, I'm gonna have to record with my phone and overlay this. This storm is the next wave is coming through right now, and there goes an ambulance. The next wave is coming through right now, and I'll get to that in a second if I haven't already got to it. Let's see, and they're going the other direction. And so en route, we took off. After going back to sleep pretty quickly. So I was up front because I flew there. I had the last break. So we took off. So I logged on to CPDLC, and then I sent off for our Oceanic Clearance. Got that, entered the track, fairly normal. Again, Cap and I just chit-chatted for quite a bit, telling random stories. The FB came up, and I told the same stories again, but to a different person. That's what we do. And then we got word. We knew there was weather in Dallas when we get here. 11 hours from when we took off. 11 hours from when we got to the airport in London anyway. And so we kept looking at the weather and like crap. And the forecast got worse. We're like crap. We had a ton of fuel. We had, let's arrive here with 40,000 pounds of fuel, aplenty. And then we had 2 alternates, Houston and Austin. And then my turn for my break. Well, right before my break, we got a reroute. And that cut 20 minutes off of our flight because the weather en route had changed. Well, we're like, well, that's unfortunate because all the break times are based on our original arrival time. Well, now we got a reroute, so now we're going to be earlier. I was going to have a shorter break. It's fine. It is what it is. You win some, you lose some. Went back from my break, and I slept pretty quickly. I was ready. I went to bed last night around 9 o'clock and woke up around 4 o'clock. Local, couldn't sleep anymore. Kind of toss and turn until 6 and woke up. So I was not fatigued by any means. I was just tired. And so I slept pretty quickly for about an hour and a half. Woke up, used the restroom, went back down, downstairs, came back upstairs, and then we had turbulence for a while. So I kind of just tossed and turned for my last hour and 20 minutes. Then I'm like, you know what? It got pretty rocking. I'm like, all right, I'm up. And then the captain made a PA, and when you make a PA on the airplane, again, we all make mistakes. I'm not dogging him by any means, but it was just kind of funny. He made a PA meaning it went to the crew rest area versus just the passengers. And so I went up front. I'm like, man, these new captains on board don't know how to make PAs and not the crew rest area. He's like, oh, yeah, I meant to do that. Ha 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 ha. We all had a good time. And they updated me on the weather and the situation in Dallas. And our dispatcher was sending us lots of messages as well, letting us know what's going on. We got closer to Dallas. We had to do some turning around. Man, it's some dark skies. Some vectors around some weather. And then it was looking good, actually. We were like number 3 or 4 in line. And we were cleared to a fix that's on the approach called Ickle. It's kind of far out. And the plane that was number 1, they went around because then they had a wind shear alert of like minus 40 knots. Like, well, I ain't doing that. So the number 2 plane had to go. It was canceled approach clearance and then went straight ahead. And then the one in front of us was given a heading, and we were told we're not interested either. And they gave us an instant hold, like a 5 nautical mile notice to hold at Ickle. So we held at Ickle at 3,000 feet. I'm pretty sure people who are living in that area are wondering why is a 777 holding over our plane so darn low. But we ended up only doing the entry and then 1 leg outbound. And on the outbound leg, the weather, it was a very fast-moving storm, had moved to the east side of the airport. And then an Airbus had landed, and they reported minus 10 knots at 100 feet. Nothing major. So we said, it looks good. We could see the airport from where we were. So, okay, we'll give it a shot. So we went in, very standard. It was very calm by that point. All the winds were all died down. It's right down the runway anyway. Flaps 25 landing, Cat was landing. tons of planes on the ground waiting to take off. They actually shut down their engines waiting to take off. And let's see how the traffic's looking. It was all looking good till the last like 10 feet, and he took the slip out and a little firm. But again, we all do it. Nothing major, but a little firm. And with that, was it. So we got to the gate, and then we had another minor issue. For whatever reason, the parking brake, like our checklist has consent items, you know? Well, the parking brake was set on the checklist, but was not showing on our iCast screen, which it normally does. So the plane sensed the parking brake was set, but whatever reason, the checklist, the closed loop system said parking brake set, but for whatever reason, the checklist, the iCast did not. So we had to call that one in. We got chalked to make sure we weren't moving at all. And we were done. So cleared customs, and even with all the craziness, we got here on time. So I am off for 5 days, and this video is probably coming out like 2 weeks after I'm doing this because of production. But good trip. It was nice flying with my buddy. I never flew with him before at my previous airline, but we were in captain training together. We're friends on Facebook. It was cool. It was cool flying with someone that you know. He has much more 777 time than I do. I have about 250 hours, 300 hours ish. With the way we do our time, he has about double that, more than double that time. The Chuck Airman had way more than any of us anyway. So, but it's a good flying with my buddy. Yeah. So I gotta go home, get some dinner for the family, and then go home and enjoy my evening. And I will send it back to Darren for the wrap up of the video. All right.
Okay, I'll be very brief. As far as my total time on the airplane, I have about 460 hours as a crew member on 777 flights, right? Because we have a multi-pilot crew, I'm only credited as far as my logbook goes and my experience on the airplane of about 270 hours. It's around there. For this trip anyway, 19 hours and 30 minutes worth of credit. I was paid $55.8207 at international pay of $97.50 and my per diem of $159.80. Very long video. I appreciate your time. If it's too long, please put it in the comments. If you want something you want to see in my videos that I can probably do, put it in the comments. I make these videos absolutely for you. I don't do sponsorships. I don't do ad placements, except for the ones on YouTube anyway. I do this for you. I appreciate your time and watching my videos. If you can like and subscribe, it helps me more than you think it does. I know you hear that a lot. Heard a lot when I was watching videos, but it does help me as a creator. Have a great day, and as always, thank you for stopping by.